Hi, everyone, and welcome to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw. Wendy has spent the last 2 years helping women with various stages of endometriosis to heal naturally after putting her condition into remission. After her own healing success from stage 4 endometriosis and adenomyosis, she's inspired to heal others, and her goal is to help some of the 175 million women know that there is another way other than painkillers, drugs, or surgery. This is the place to be for real talk with real people for real results, so you can learn how to heal your endometriosis naturally. Please note that the opinions expressed in this program may represent options, but are not a substitute for proper medical care. Before starting any new healthcare program, we recommend you consult with a health professional.
Hey everyone, it's Wendy K. Laidlaw here from Heal Endometriosis Naturally, and I'm super excited today to have a very special guest on. Her name is Lois Hollis from America. Welcome, Lois.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. We spoke on the summit, and I thought it would be really cool. When we did the Ultimate Emotional Health Summit, to have you back to really delve down deeper a bit more on these elements of guilt and shame. But before we get it down there, because I know we're going to have a big chat about it, I'm going to give people a bit of background information about you. Lois is a shame guilt educator, counselor, and filmmaker. She was formerly a registered nurse. Lois today has very strong opinions about subjects like shame and guilt, which not many people talk about. Her 50 years experience in health, with 15 of those researching and counseling, brings this wealth of knowledge to these misunderstood conditions and tries to help people release from that guilt and shame struggle. Because let's face it, some people are really good at projecting shame and guilt. So shame guilt is a negative energy that changes positive emotions into negativity and is a root cause of emotional problems. So as I say, we're going to be, Lois is also an author of 3 books and a short film. Her newest book, Now is the Time, gives us her light language spirit readings to enhance her spiritual growth as well. And her new film, I'm Good, will expose the shame guilt, to be produced in this, I think, the next couple of months. So welcome, Hollis. Lois, I beg your pardon. How are you today?
I'm wonderful to talk about how we can get rid of the shame guilt monster.
Absolutely.
I'm going to call it the shame guilt monster because that's how we feel sometimes, all of us.
Well, I think it's quite interesting that you put it together, but I mean, perhaps we could say, how young are you?
I'm 77.
77, and you have the energy of like a 17-year-old, which is, I always think, marvelous. But perhaps you could share with people a little bit of your background, because it wasn't all plain sailing to get to this point. And then, then we can go down deeper into the sort of shame guilt element.
Okay, I'll make my 77 years very composite. Okay, I wasn't really aware of my injuries physically, mentally, and emotionally until like 50. They used to call it the middle age crisis. Now they call it at 40. So, I mean, everything has changed. But anyway, I became very depressed and so forth and so on. And I had migraine headaches for like 30 years. And that in itself is huge. Yeah, horrific. And I had deformities on my chest, and I had heart murmurs, a leaky valve, which was familiar. My father had that, and deep scoliosis, and my heads and everything was crumbling in on me. So they said, you have a few years to live. And I knew that as a nurse, that you can't survive without breathing and your heart not pumping.
Yes.
I mean, that's that's the bottom line.
So kind of need these things, don't we?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, little things like that.
Yeah,
so I obviously I found a healer that helped me out through all this, but emotional work was there. And I did a therapy typical, and it really, really helped, because I didn't want to commit suicide anymore. So that was a step up.
I was going to say, don't skim over that, because that's obviously, what you're describing physically. Wow. I mean, there was a lot of physical, the dis-ease, that was going on subconsciously. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? That
that's huge.
That's huge. We don't know it. It's like the iceberg. All we can see is the tip, that we've got these symptoms, which is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole mass of stuff going on underneath, in our subconscious. So I think when people try to consciously fix things or make things better, there's this other stuff going on, and that's where
Yeah,
there's more.
that's
So, yeah,
where we are today. And it's
yeah.
like, and I have a detective mind. Oh man, I'd be a great detective. So when I see something, I got to go, how'd that happen? And
Yeah.
I drive people crazy, but it's great for
Oh, I think
investigative.
it's good. I always joke that I popped out my mum's womb going, but why? But why?
Why'd that happen? He would say, shh, 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 shh.
But it's from a
Do you-
physical perspective, I mean, you were really crippled by.
I
what
was
going
crippled.
on.
I was crippled. Yeah. But I have this incredible sense that I wasn't sick. It's
Yeah.
just the weirdest thing.
Mm.
People say, I said, oh, yeah, well, I have this and that, and I'm okay. But it wasn't like positive thinking. It was I'm okay. It was just
It's
weird.
the
But I
knowing.
never really knew about it until later when I was going backwards and forwards. Like, why wasn't I super depressed and horrible? It was weird that I had this overlining umbrella that I'm okay, even though I can't walk and I can't breathe and but I'm okay. It's kind of godly in a way, if you want, it's spirit driven. Anyway, so to get back to that, someone asked me a question, what do you do about shame? I was in a women's group, and that was very helpful too.
So this was part of you getting, this is all part of the beginning of your journey.
Yeah. Somebody said, what do you do about shame? And I went, my detective mind. That's a very interesting word. I don't know. And here I am whittled in shame.
So what I'm hearing from you is that your body had manifested itself because there'd been so much shame projected onto you that and this might be hard for some people to really comprehend if they're new to understanding this, and we get this because it's taken us a long time to get to go, oh right,
77 years.
Yeah, I was like 50 years before I'm like, why was I bedridden and disabled and almost near total organ failure? There's other factors too, but it's amazing how the emotional component, the projection from other people, and shame and guilt, we don't even think is even stuck to us. And
yes.
I don't even begin to comprehend the physical as well as the emotional and spiritual impact on this living organism that we live in, that we occupy.
Oh, you're so good, Wendy. You're so good.
I'll pay you
really
later.
Anyway, so I went to the library. We didn't have internet then, okay? And Bradshaw was the best. He said it's a sickness of the soul. And I was just thinking and reading and trying to understand, because there wasn't like a shame guilt educator I could go to and say, hello, what is this? Yeah. They didn't know any more than I knew. So I'm very blessed to have information from spirit. At this time, I realized that I had a near-death experience in my childhood, somewhere around 5 or 6, and I had beings with me at all times. So I never knew that was different. Yeah. So in this awakening that I had, I also remembered, oh my goodness, I saw God, so it kind of put my whole life in order, because I was extremely dyslexic. I had Erin syndrome. Erin syndrome is when you look at a book and the words keep moving, so you cannot read. Yeah. So I was labeled as a stupid idiot child. No. Yeah, which was really great in a way, because they left me alone. Nobody pushed me to learn. Nobody said, you stupid person. They just said, she's a stupid idiot child and she can't learn. And that was in a Catholic school. So they said, we will just keep her here, because we know she needs to be in school, but we cannot teach her because she's an idiot child. And I started tap dancing. I love to dance. And I really believe that through the years, the right brain and the left start talking to each other. So now I read and I do all sorts of things, but I didn't know anything like that. I just, okay. So at that time, I was helping people with their interpersonality parts, like anger. We would talk to like subpersonality work.
So this is after you got yourself well.
Yes, I was, because I start doing stuff and people say, what are you doing, Lois? You look so good. I want to do it. So I start doing this with other people. And I said, I'm only writing to myself and I'm talking to myself. And the more I help people, the more information spirit gave me.
So what I'm hearing is for you to come out of that crippled state physically, you really had to learn to connect to yourself emotionally. You did that through your tap dancing and your journaling and your talking to yourself.
To yourself, like, hi, anger, how are you? Instead of, I did
Bring the
therapy for
emotion.
such a long time, and I had to talk to myself.
Yeah.
And I did, and they answered. And I have dialogues and dialogues of everything. And then I was healing, but there was something missing, and all of a sudden the shame started coming in, and I would see it, because I hadn't, I remember I could see things. That's why I did the film, my DVD, because I was giving a lecture and I said, don't you see this? And I didn't understand that people don't see what I see. So yes. I could see shame and guilt, how it affects the inner parts of us, like little Sally and little George inside of us.
Yeah.
So we were able to, since we saw it and felt it, we could remove it. And we did. And oh my goodness, it was like the spark of light coming. And we didn't do anything with light. We just took away the shame, guilt.
But it's interesting you talk about light, because I think once you shine light on something, i.e. increase awareness on something for the first time, that is almost shining light on something. You go, oh, I didn't even know that was an issue or existed or was even projected onto me to even do anything about it. And then once I call it the AIEIE, the awareness, then you go and get information, then you go and get education, then you need inspiration to keep working through. And then that's empowerment, because I think that's it, isn't it? You don't even know what you don't know.
Of course. One thing is important to know. Shame, guilt, I call it shame, guilt because it's one and the same energy, is an eraser. It actually, it doesn't completely erase it, but it puts a cover on it. So essentially, it erases the traumas that you've had. Now, that's a protection from our dear friend, the inner critic. And he helps you to cover it so you can go on, which is very, very nice. It's like a protective mother, a protective father. But it's like when you're 40 years old, you're like, this is not helping me. Yeah. I need to find it to fix it so I can glow. But thank you so much for getting me through 8 and 10 and 12 in my teenage years. But now I'm 40. I'm very smart and I can handle this. Yeah. So can we kind of like make a deal where I can see some things?
Terms.
Yeah. We can be negotiating things, so that's where we were going today. So anyway, what I was so surprised is that one little thing of release of shame, guilt was like 1,000 things that I could never even explain. It was just like, it was every time was like a miracle. But it was just a little fragment of the shame guilt moving. I'm going, oh my God, what would happen if we got rid of so much of it? Because I was carrying so much. Yeah. We could become, wow. I mean, it was like exponential. So I started to talk with people. This is like 10 years ago, because isn't this magnificent? It's like the biggest find ever. Yeah. So people say, oh, I love how you speak and I love your personal attitude, but can you change your topic? We don't talk about shame and guilt. And I'm going, but if you don't talk about it, how can you get rid of it?
I'm talking about it is because people don't talk about it.
And they said, oh, no, we don't have shame, guilt. Other people may have it, but I don't have it. And I went, okay. So like we talked before, the virus got people to be more inside of themselves. And now they're like, oh, there is something called shame and guilt. So that's why we are able to talk more now. So yes. And for people to realize that it has been put upon us forever in our school, in our church, in our religion, in our culture, in our family. It's everywhere. So you can't blame your mother or your father or your grandmother or your first grade teacher. You can only blame shame, guilt. And the fact that we don't know about it is because it's been purposely hidden for control.
I was just going to say it's been introduced to as an element of control. Now, whether that's been passed down and that's just mirrored and witnessed and just carried on down without even questioning, without even being aware, or whether it's been deliberately done to manipulate, it's still
it ever. Yeah. And that's a whole nother story. And I'm not getting into politics and government.
no, no, no.
I'm
Oh my
saying,
goodness, we could
I'm
then
just
be
saying,
here all week.
yeah, I'm saying to you is that shame, guilt, which is the same energy, exists as a negative force in opposition to our love.
Yeah.
If you can see love coming in with our joy and happiness, then you can also see a negative energy coming in.
Yeah. And
So
I think it's interesting because even you just saying that's the thing. It's the negative energy, which then, you know, you can imagine if you have shame and guilt projected upon you, your shoulders slump round, you always come back into the shell. You know, if you were a tortoise, you know, you kind of pull back in because and that is the power that has been used upon you. And once you learn that that has been done in some sort of way, you then start to be able to kind of increase your awareness as to where and when and how and why.
that's beautifully placed, because if we can just embody and know that shame, guilt is not of us, it's a whole nother story. But if something doesn't belong to our humanity,
Yeah.
we can get rid of it.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's like, even just hearing you talk there, I literally lived 52 years of guilt. I felt guilty for this, guilty for that, guilty for this, felt guilty for that. Wasn't doing enough there, should have been doing enough here. I remember waking up about 2 years ago going, enough. It's not my guilt to carry. You know, this is, you know, this, from an emotional perspective, it's like, enough. You can pass that sack back onto somebody else's lap and realize and recognize, yes, we need to take responsibility for what we think and say and do. Yes, we are responsible for us, but actually separating, isn't it, what has been projected onto us by others and what is our stuff. That is the growth and the challenge on this journey.
Exactly. And that awareness came from your innate being, because you have a lot of light, Wendy. So therefore you could do that. Some people have not been able to do that.
To get there, don't get me wrong.
Well, hey, I'm 77 and I'm still working on it. Okay. So
I think we all will to the day we die, because we don't quite know what sometimes is under the surface.
well, but we can know.
Yes.
That's where I am. We can cut this in the bud, because I'm like, I ain't doing this again. You know, this. Okay. So now with the knowledge that it doesn't belong to us, really helps when you get shameful and guilt. And I help people by saying, okay, you're feeling shameful, you're feeling guilt. That's very real. However, it doesn't belong to you. Your emotions belong to you.
Yeah.
So can we just put that on the side? I know it's not 100% effective, but just knowing that, say to yourself, what am I feeling? Well, I'm feeling really depressed. Okay, hi depression, how are you? Let's talk to depression.
Yeah, that's exactly how I work with my clients in my Embracing Emotions programs, because it's so powerful, isn't it? To identify that there's different parts within you, personality parts, but actually they have their own energies and they have their own wants and needs and they have their own voice.
Yes, they do. And that's how we heal completely.
Yeah.
By talking to ourselves. And so, and I have I don't know if you saw it, the DVD I have on YouTube, Out of Discord into Harmony. It teaches people how to talk within themselves.
Yes.
And that came first to me. And then after I was speaking with them, then the shame guilt came in, as far as they're the ones who were carrying it. So then I worked with each one of that. So then I went, all of a sudden the inner critic came, and he's the mastermind of the whole personality. So it's like, he's the one, or she's the one that we have to talk to. Pardon?
She's the one, yeah.
I mean, well, it depends. Some people have a she and some people come and have a he.
Absolutely. No, fair enough.
And I met one client that had two females as their inner critics.
Yeah.
And because he had been, his mother had passed away and he was raised by another person. So he had actually two. which was not helpful.
And
It's
that's it.
been,
We internalize our caregivers or our parents' voices into our own head, because at the core of growing up and being a child, we just want to keep mum and dad happy. That is all children really want to do. So that perfectionist, that critic, that driver, all those really strong parts then take over and dominate. And that's when people start to get sick and down and
yeah,
depressed and anxious,
and
because
depressed.
you can't keep that level of perfectionism and think up. You just can't do it as a human in this day and age. You just can't do
Yeah,
it.
and the energy, as I said, shame, guilt, and energy. And you can think of the energy as a computer virus. What happens when the virus goes into your computer? Microsoft Word doesn't work and everything is disordered and misplaced. When shame, guilt, energy comes into us, it distorts our physical body as well, as you say. And that's the reason why we get sick. Why did I get sick? Oh, I must have drank too much coffee or something. No, the shame guilt actually came in and distorted your pancreas, your stomach, your thinking, and turns your compassion into depression, changes your intuition to anxiety. So it actually rotates your emotions. So if we want to get well, you got to talk about shame guilt.
No, I completely agree with everything that you're saying, and it's lovely hearing you put it in that way, because I think that's it. Sometimes you can suddenly feel okay, and then suddenly you don't know why you're feeling yucky, and then it's almost like the film Spider-Man, the Marvel film Spider-Man,
Yeah,
when he has that sticky spider web stuff. It's almost like suddenly you're feeling the sticky spider web stuff on you, and you're like, where's this come from? It's not my stuff, but it's sticking to me. It's making me feel yuck. And for me, that analogy is right. Okay, I've got to stop, sit, journal. Think about, who have I just interacted with, who have I just engaged with, or what have I
put that on you.
put that on me, and then pick it off and give it back to them, or just dissolve it or whatever. Because I think sometimes we, as human beings, we've been around for millions of years, and all this energy and intuition and all that kind of stuff isn't woo woo or wacky stuff. This is like who we are as humans, but we're so polished now in our modern day society, and so fast paced and living in that busy mind state, that actually when we pay attention to what's going on inside of it, has all this wisdom. And then you can get to the bottom of the iceberg and find out where the toxicity has come from, and then make choices for boundaries and things as well.
So in the teaching that I do, it's like I call myself more of a teacher at this point, because we have to know what shame guilt behaviors are, not to use them on ourselves or to accept them from other people.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother thing. And I'm doing the film. So
maybe you could explain a bit more about some of these behaviors for the listeners. Like, give some examples.
Okay. Let's say anything that makes you feel not good enough. Now, it's not only the behavior, it's the behavior of the action. People say, oh, that was really a dumb thing to do. Oh, that was a dumb thing to do. You see the difference in the intensity. So the way the voice comes across is the energy coming across. So anything that makes you feel lesser than, but the person giving you the shame guilt doesn't know they're doing it. So it isn't like they're a bad person, because they've been raised by the same culture you have been raised.
Well, you make the assumption they don't know what they're doing. You start with that, but either way, it doesn't matter. It's just being aware, isn't it, of how
exactly. So as I'm needing not to shame guilt other people for giving shame guilt behaviors, because they're in the dark like you are in the dark. Yeah. So I'm starting at the bottom here. This is at the bottom. We're starting where no one knows, and I'm spreading light on it. So bullying, of course, passive aggressive behavior, not being micromanaging somebody, the ultimate control. Things of that sort are very, very obvious, but we don't think of it immediately. So it's all in my book. I'm going to get my book now, because you know how it is. You write a book and you forget what you put in it.
But that said, I think
So,
there's so many different elements, isn't there? So many different ways that suddenly somebody can project onto you. And I think it's, recognizing what is your stuff, your responsibility, and then recognizing what somebody's projecting onto you.
so what I have done is on my website, I have an ebook, and it's 500 questions, one answer. So you will get 500 ways that you can see or use or placed upon you shame, guilt.
Yeah. And
And
it's
I,
to wake up, isn't it? To go, oh, right, that person used that on me the other day. And, before we come onto our call here, I had a gas engineer out, and literally I can still feel his negative, shaming energy on me as I had to go out for a walk and literally brush it off, because he came in and to my apartment and his energy was dark and negative and accusatory, literally from the moment he came through the door. It was, so it's really interesting because it can be a gas engineer, a plumber, it could be your boss, it could be your parents, it could be your friends, but it's being awake and aware to what it is. And then as you say,
so
questions and the one answer. So you can have all these questions.
yeah, so you can say to yourself, I don't accept that, and you give it back, or you give it to the universe to recycle, whatever. But sometimes I'll think and I go, oh my goodness, that happened 2 months ago. And someone really did that. But it took me a while to understand what really did happen, because we're so placed into the normalcy of it. It is not normal. It's it's common. There's a lot of people out there saying shame, guilt is normal, and it's not normal.
No, it's not
common.
No,
it's
but
common. It's common.
Yeah.
So I'm going against the grain on that one.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, Lois.
So the main thing that we can mention today is the inner critic, because he runs the show, but he's been taught to run the show. He's like a Xerox copy of our childhood. I mean, if you could do a Xerox copy of everything and make it a person, that would be your inner critic.
Yeah.
So that's who he or she is. And sometimes we say, well, why does that voice come to me and tell me all these crazy, stupid things? And it's not who I am today. And it's like, if I'm talking to somebody and I'm living in France and I don't speak French, but they're talking to me in French and I don't understand it, why should I get upset with them? That's how they were trained. So we can't be upset with him because he was trained to be punitive, because that's how our society taught us in school. You can't do this. You have to write with your right hand. I was a left hand. That did not work. So it was like you had to conform to their rules. And people like you, people like me, and a lot of people we know are more of an emotional, spiritual nature, and we don't go that way.
No.
And so we get hit a little harder because we were way out of line in their place. But
that's right.
We were more in the spiritual place. Anyway, so.
But that kind of makes me think about, when you're saying that, I think there's a lot of people suppress and bring in their own conflict to societal pressures, because they just want to, because they do want to question it, and they are like, but they're feeling the pressure to conform, and that's then it's brought into the body, and then makes the body and the spirit and the mind, makes it ill.
Yeah, conformity is shame, guilt. And who are we? We are beautiful, beautiful human beings that are on the evolutionary track. As I say, it's a treadmill without an off button. So we're keep going and we're saying, no, you got to conform. No, you got to conform. And we're like,
Well, actually, I read something the other day that said actually that we are, as a species, it's interesting, you talk about the evolutionary sort of conveyor belt, that we're in danger of suppressing and squashing innovative and creative ideas because
of course,
we don't encourage to think outside the box and be creative and question and be curious. And I know with my own children, I'm like, no, my son and I were having a big debate the other day about gene expression and this kind of stuff. And I said, actually, I disagree with you, honey. And let me tell you why. And why do you think, and I was saying, no, you disagree with me. Fantastic. What are your thoughts? I don't want my children to be rebels. I don't want them to be shoved in a box either. I want them to think wider, open up their eyes, their mind, their spirit, their energy to, not just to be blinkered into one way of thinking and feeling, but to actually, expose themselves so they can be creative and innovative, because that is almost like a dying industry now.
Of course, but that's shame and guilt is the cause.
Yeah.
So I remember when my children were growing up, they all said, what are we going to be? What are we going to do? And they couldn't fit into any box. And they said, Mom, I can't do this. I don't have a future. Excuse me. And I said, what you probably will do has not been invented yet. And that was very true, because my daughter went into IT when it first started. But when she was 10, there was no such thing as international technology.
Yeah.
So I told them, don't worry about it, because you're just ahead of the game, and the world will catch up with you. And it's true, because each one has done something different. Like my other daughter's a physician, and she's a mold specialist. Well, when she was 10, they didn't even know mold existed. So you're exactly
awesome,
right.
because you obviously gave them both the opportunity to grow in their minds and in their creativity and their vision.
I gave them
imagination.
Permission. I gave them permission.
And I think that's it. Yeah, that's key, isn't it?
So we can give ourselves permission. We don't want to talk to shame and guilt.
But
I give my
how easy. So I'm hearing we both gave our children permission to be creative and be themselves. How easy was it for you to give yourself permission?
Harder, of course. But of course. So I had a battle with shame. Get out of here. Out of here. Of course, it wasn't 100% effective, but at least I had that way that I knew that it wasn't of me. It still invaded me. Okay, the shame guilt producer in me. Okay, we have the shame guilt producer in our culture. You're in London, I'm the United States. I talk to people in India and Africa. Guess what? They all have a culture of shame guilt. They go, man, we have that here too. Okay. So it's not endemic to each country. Everybody has it.
Yeah.
So I, Lois, have a shame guilt culture inside of me, because what's outside is inside. And how can I fix the great divide of the world that's happening right now? I can help repair the divide inside of me.
Yeah.
And that's what I've decided to do. I have a community Facebook now, and I'm inviting people there. We can do this work together so we can heal the divide inside of us. That's what we can do.
And I think that's it, is reclaiming the power that we have, because we are powerless over other people, places and things.
Yes, but I can fix me.
Exactly.
I can fix me.
We have to start with self first, don't we? You have to come back to self and recognize what's been projected onto you, and recognize what is not ours and what is ours. So as we're kind of finishing up here, tell me, I mean, obviously you started off by saying you were hunched over, you were crippled, you had all these physical ailments, you were depressed, you were suicidal. Explain how your body is now.
I ski, snow ski. Amazing. And I go to sleep about 3 or 4 in the morning, and I'm up at 8, and I have vitality.
Yeah, but your body's healed. You just need to see you.
I still have a couple things here and there, but my jaw was broken, and I had 4 or 5 brain traumas, and God saved me. I had many angels.
Physically, compared to where you were, I mean,
I would not be here. And my heart, I'm starting to run now.
Amazing.
So I'm able to run. But at 50, I couldn't.
Inspiring. That's inspiring, you see, because I think some people, again, talking of conformity and shame and guilt, at a certain age, women are supposed to do this at a certain age. As a human, you're supposed to not to be able to do that. And I think that's it. You've really challenged the internal dialogue and the external suppression, if you like, projection, to kind of going, you know, I mean, your energy for 77 is amazing. It's like you're like, have you ever seen?
I've gotten younger. I was
gonna say, have you seen the film Benjamin Button?
I've heard of that. I haven't seen
but
it.
He basically gets younger and younger and younger as he gets older and older and older. That feels like you're on that pathway.
But the more shame, guilt I get rid of, the healthier I feel. Okay, I have a very good chiropractor that has helped me along the line, because I feel like you have to do physical, mental, emotional, all of that. But you have to do the emotional work, and it's the shame, guilt that really distorts our body. So that's where the distortions came in. Like, I actually embodied my emotional body.
But I think a lot of people, especially my audience, probably will be like, really, is that could it affect things? Like, of course. I mean, we don't recognize it. We call it the molecules of emotions. Are the emotions that are taken in or are already in us can affect our physiology. We don't know to what degree.
The only way that I have had people to understand what we're talking about is the computer. How a virus affects the computer, that it doesn't work right. That's how our body is. Our body is a computer. And if we put energy into it, that's wrong. It goes, what happens if you plug, I don't know too much about this, but anyway, you plug your computer in, not a safety grounded, electrical current, and what happens? It fries. I mean, I haven't done that, but so
I think as well, it's almost like a background operating system, isn't it? It's like, you know, sometimes you can have Windows or you can have Mac in the background, and it's the same with shame, guilt. If that's operating in the background, you just carry around this, you're like under this cloud all the time, and even though you're willfully trying to break free from it, you know, it's so deeply embedded. But what's wonderful is what I'm hearing you say, and I know the work that you do, is that there is a way out. It's not
there is a way out, and
the more you release, the more that your body gets energized, because the energy that you're taking out is negative and toxic, and what you're going to be bringing in is more light and positive energy and thoughts. So your body can only but respond to that.
And what I say to people, and it's true, because my mind is wired this way, so it's easier for me. But I say to my clients, if you don't believe me, and I can understand that, can you just entertain that fact? Can you just give it like, okay,
with the idea in your head.
Like, you're really stupid, this don't make any ideas, but I'll give it a try. I have nothing to lose by doing what you're saying.
Well,
and that's right.
To open up the mind to the concept that perhaps there could be.
I'm saying.
And it's not your fault if you are carrying that, and it's not you a bad person. It's just
because you're human. You're human. That's why.
And we are conditioned by our upbringing. You know, we're literally, they say the first 7 years of life, we're walking around in a semi-hypnotic state, and we literally just take in what's being said and around us. We don't have filters to filter out. And it's the latter years of our life that we're going, okay, I don't think I want that in my big iceberg underneath it in my subconscious anymore. I think I choose to put a boundary in, or choose to move that.
So I tell people, I'm a movie.
Yeah.
I'm entertaining you with another way of life.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost any money. It will never hurt you.
No, can you get?
So can you just? I'm entertaining you, and they go, "Okay, Lois." I said, "I won't charge you for the visit. I'm entertaining you to an option that's possible, because you never heard this before. Because I'm the only one talking like this. So I'm just saying to you, I'm entertaining you, and
I think that's it, isn't it? I think, you know, when we've been on our own journey, we certainly woke up to, oh my goodness, no wonder. It was weird. It was a strange concept to start with, but then once you started to learn more, it made so much sense.
So I'm like, I'm entertaining you. I'm not healing you. I'm not helping you. I'm entertaining you with a new idea. And they go, oh, okay, I can do that. So, and
you just want to ignite a little ember in there. So to see whether or not it catches fire or not, just a little bit of light on the possibility. And actually, hopefully when the women are listening to this, they're feeling relief to go, oh, well, that might be why I felt so awful, and I don't know why I feel so awful, or why I feel
I'll give it a try. I'll give it a try.
Or I should be
So,
suffering for the rest of my life. No, you're not supposed to meant to suffer. You know, that
okay,
is a thing.
suffering is a dead end ditch. You get no rewards for suffering. And
But it's
this was a concept, I know, but this was a concept placed in our mind for
yeah,
many people. Suffering is not okay. You can
absolutely.
suffer, but you're not getting any, God does not give you brownie points
But
for
it's so
suffering.
that because I read that it came in because Buddha said supposedly that life is meant, your life is suffering. And actually, when I read further on this, the word for suffering doesn't exist in Buddha's language in Sanskrit. What he means is life is challenges. Now, the secret to our growth and everyone's growth is how we move through and manage the elements of
Challenge.
challenges that come
Yeah.
through, not to stay stuck. And I think that's what I'm trying to say to the listeners is, you're not supposed to stay stuck in suffering because you're a bad person. You've had shame and guilt projected upon you. And you learn tools because you'll journal, you'll meditate, you'll learn from people like us, top tips and tools as to how to navigate your way through any potential challenges and suffering.
And don't feel guilty because you have gone into the suffering,
Exactly.
because it did teach you something.
Yeah.
Whatever. You can't do the guilt thing. Whenever you feel guilty, go over there.
Yeah.
Just go over there. I want to talk to my depression.
For now. Exactly. We'll come
Yeah,
back.
that's on the shelf. And I'm talking to my depression or my anxiety, or I'll call Wendy, or I'll call Lois. So it's okay.
Exactly.
So there is a way out.
And I think
There
that's
is
it.
a way
We're
out.
saying the same thing, which is you're not alone. There's so many people think that it's just them because they've had
Because shame is an isolator.
It is a terrible, terrible isolator.
And that's why I want to do this community group in the Facebook, so that we know we're all in isolation, but we're in a group in isolation.
Well, then you're not in isolation. It's funny because I think as humans, we seek sameness, don't we? We seek to
Yes.
identify with others, to know that actually we're not different and we're not weird and we're not alone. And actually in that sameness, we recognize there's a freeing of the spirit, because the spirit becomes very sort of shrunken and shackled when it feels very lost, alone and persecuted and put upon. But actually when you come together with like-minded people and you go, oh my goodness, what they're saying, that's what happened to me. I didn't even realize that. I didn't think that. There's some talk about energy. The energy lifts in groups like that when you got people coming together
together. And that's where you can see yourself in another person. Absolutely. And then you're validated.
Absolutely.
And so I think we did good today.
Well, look, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Okay, my website, Lois, Lois, Hollis, HOLLIS.com.
Fantastic. Well, I'll have something underneath here as well.
Yeah, and I would really like to have your video on my website to help people to know there is a community. We are all in this together. This is a human race problem. It's not a Wendy problem. It's not a Lois problem. It's a human being problem. But there's one solution. That's it. How cool is that? I remember when I discovered this, I was dancing. I was so excited. I don't have to go anxiety counseling. I don't know to go anger management. Yeah. I don't have to go suicidal prevention. I just have to get rid of shame, guilt. How exciting is that?
It's super exciting and it's super empowering, isn't it? Because we actually have so much more power by the journaling and meditation, just very simple things that bring us back to ourselves and then come together with other people. Then we can be dancing and dancing around, tap dancing and whatever around our sitting rooms as we need to, eh?
Yeah, I'm making a new, I have a dress that I love to sew. So I saw a dress that's way too small for me. I mean, it's a 2. I am not a 2, but I cut the top off. See how gorgeous that is. And so I love clothes. I love sparkles, and we all sparkle.
Yeah.
We all sparkle.
Well, you have to get a picture of you tap dancing with that beautiful little glitzy number on.
I will.
Well, look, thank you so much for coming on, Lois. It's been wonderful. I just hope that people, if this has ignited or just made people a bit curious as to kind of what they might be carrying, and actually it could be ancestral.
We're entertaining.
Yeah, but this could be passed down through the generations. You know, it could be ancestral. We don't even know what it is.
Okay, when I released the shame guilt that I was carrying, I felt my mother in spirit came to me that night, and she was released as well.
Well, that's it.
How cool is that? How beautiful is that? And we can take it away from our children as well.
Absolutely.
That's another story. But anyway, yeah, it's
But
way
look,
cool.
thank you so much for coming on, Lois. That's wonderful. And we'll have details down below. And obviously, in the meantime, if anybody wants to get any further details on Lois, go to loishollis.com and we will speak to you soon. Bye. To your health.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Heal Endometriosis Naturally with Wendy K. Laidlaw. And I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate us. If you're interested in learning more, you can download your top 5 jumpstart tips at healendometriosisnaturally.com and jump on the VIP email list. Remember to keep you number one. The world needs a healthy you.